Good evening, everyone. This is Councilor Katie Roby. I'm going to call the City Council Urban Affairs Committee meeting to order. Are we okay? Can you hear me, everybody? Thank you. We have one item on our agenda. I do want to let everybody know that this meeting is being held virtually with councilors in person and remotely. No public attendance is permitted. The meeting is televised on WMCT-TV. And you can view the meeting using the link under the meeting videos tab on the city website. I am going to call the roll because we do have some of us in chambers and some of us on virtually. So we are going to do a roll call on everything that we need to do this evening. So, Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette is present.
Councilor Landers.
Councilor Landis is present in the chamber.
Councilor Navin.
Councilor Navin is present.
Thank you.
Councilor Wagner.
Councilor Wagner is present.
And I am present. Also in chambers, I believe, is Councilor Ossing.
Councilor
and
Ossing is
on
present.
the Teams meeting is Councilor Perlman. We also have several people from the applicant, including Brian Falk, the attorney. I also see Councilor Oram on Teams meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
We have one item on our agenda. As I said, it is order number 20-107-995B, the application for the special permit by WP Marlborough, Massachusetts, owner LLC, Wayside Residential, 339 Boston Post Road East, to construct a multifamily dwelling residential project. I do want everybody to let me know that they did receive lots of information for tonight's meeting. You all should have the November 17th memo from Vanessa and Associates to Thomas Moran regarding the city engineer's comment on the driveway location. You should have the concept plan for the easterly access, traffic signal warrant information. Bless you, Council Perlman. The December 9th memo from Vanessa and Associates to Thomas Moran regarding the trip generation report, the December 12th transportation impact assessment, the memo from Priscilla Ryder regarding site plan comments, including a revised conservation restriction plan. Everyone should also have a copy of the self-assessment of the development review criteria provided by the applicant and the draft special permit provided for our meeting on November 19th. I also believe tonight, I was just told, we received a PowerPoint that I believe Attorney Falk will go over. So I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Falk for some brief comments, and then we can start the meeting. Attorney Falk?
Great. Thank you, Madam Chair. I hope I can be heard, and if anybody can't hear me, please give a wave and I'll adjust. For the record, again, Brian Falk of Myrick O'Connell, appearing on behalf of the applicant, WP Marlborough MA Owner LLC, which is a subsidiary of Waypoint Residential. Since our last meeting with Urban Affairs, in addition to the materials that the Madam Chair read into the record, we met with the Site Plan Committee on December 1st to discuss our reduced project scope and concept plan. I don't want to speak for them, but I think the takeaway with the Site Plan Committee members expressed that they preferred our new plan to the old plan. The new plan being the one that drops 48 units in one building for a 25% reduction in overall project scope and parking spaces. Just before we get back to councilors' questions and comments, I was hoping we could have our engineers from Allen and Major just briefly summarize some of the changes on the new site plan that was submitted. And then hopefully we can start working towards discussion of the draft special permit decision. So I'd like to turn things over to Dave Robinson from Allen and Major. And if we could just bring up the PDF of the site plan. We don't need the PowerPoint, but if we could bring up the PDF of the site plan, that may help Allen and Major, walk you through the overall changes. David?
It's going to be me, Brian. It's Carlton Quinn with Allen and Major Associates.
Thank you.
So the last time we were before you, we presented you with basically a presentation plan. The changes to that plan are really only one thing, is that we changed the location of the dog park. So we'll run through these plans. This is the existing conditions plan, which is the same as it was in the previous version. I just lost the presentation there. Okay, so up on the screen now, that is the just a copy of the existing conditions plan. That hasn't changed since our first submittal. So in the submittal of that presentation plan that we presented in front of you before, we just added more information so that it met the requirements of this approval and the requirements of the special permit. So we've added proposed topography, landscaping, and utilities. So just additional detail on top of that presentation plan you had previously that are in the following pages after this one. And the only real change to the plan from what you saw before was we moved the dog park from the southerly portion of the site, kind of the undeveloped area where the walk was, and we brought it to the northerly portion of the site that's being developed. It's going to be now in between the self-storage building and building number 300, kind of on the west side of the site. If you see it, it's right in behind the dumpster there on the left-hand corner between the building and the dumpster, a little lower, right there. So that's where we're gonna have the dog park now instead of on the other side of the site. But other than that, the plans are basically the exact same layout that we had presented before you and the site plan committee previously. And I'll hand it back over to Brian.
Thank you, Carlton. That's all we had tonight, Madam Chair, in terms of a presentation, really looking to discuss with the committee members and hopefully maybe get into the draft decision. Thank you.
All right. I am going to take a few minutes to go over the email that we got with the memo from Priscilla Ryder, which I think does bring up some of the points on the from the site plan meeting. Just kind of gives everybody some general comments. It also has a few suggested changes for the special permit that we can go over. So her email is dated December 16th to me as chairperson of the Urban Affairs Committee. We had the following comments on the revised conceptual plan. At its meeting on December 1st, 2020, Site Plan Review Committee reviewed the newest proposed layout for the 339 Boston Post Road project. Number one, overall, the committee was pleased with the reduction in the overall size of the project. It appears that the applicant has tried to address many of the concerns that have been voiced by this committee and others, with one less building and expansion of the landscape area along Route 20 and around the buildings. The site now looks less cramped. Number two, fire access. Although the fire department likes to see 360-degree access around all buildings, it's not required in the code. In addition, because these buildings will be fully sprinkled, there is less concern. Therefore, the layout as shown is acceptable to Fire Chief Green. Number three, traffic. The current driveway configuration was discussed. The primary access point across from the village's east driveway appears to be a good location. We are waiting for the traffic study to support this. The second exit-only access point may need some additional analysis to ensure it is appropriate. There was discussion as to whether the second access should be an emergency access only, and if so, it should not be gated to better assist fire and police access. This will be discussed further at site plan review. And I believe that will also be discussion as we talk about a memo we got from the traffic study. Open space in the walking trails. We are still working on final plans of the conservation restriction location. The most recent plan is to ensure that conservation restriction area 1, as shown on the attached plan, includes all the remaining undeveloped property. Area number 2, as shown on the plan, is fine. We've walked the trail location along the sewer line, which will be an asset. The slopes on either side of this sewer line are very steep, so access to area 2 is not recommended at this time. C, we are in discussions with the school to see what access is needed to allow the sewer line trail to provide families and students access to the school. We should have a more defined answer for you at the meeting on December 22nd. So that will be a point, a question for Priscilla Ryder. D, the final details of the trail and conservation restriction can be fleshed out at site plan review, but conceptually, we wanted to have a defined direction in this special permit you were contemplating. Number 5, wetlands. The project moves all work outside of the floodplain and reduces impacts to the riverfront area and wetland buffer zone, which is a benefit. It also proposes all above-ground drainage detention basin, which is a benefit. However, as these are still major changes, the applicant will need to file with the Conservation Commission for an amended or new order of conditions. The overall project appears to have less wetland impact, which is a benefit. 6, the committee members also reviewed the draft special permit conditions, which are under review by the Urban Affairs Committee, and had the following comments. A, draft condition, the C5, the new wording of the last sentence of this condition should read, as required by condition of the Conservation Commission's final approved order of conditions, the applicant, its successors, and or assigned shall hire an independent erosion control expert to oversee construction at the site. And Mr. Falk, I don't know if you want me to read all this and then we can go back to them, or can I ask you if you are agreeable to these as we take them one at a time?
I think it's more efficient to go one at a time, and the one you just read is fine with us.
Okay. So we can discuss it as a committee, but so long as the applicant is okay, that's a plus right there. All right, the second one is a C8. The new wording should read, roadway improvements. The applicant, its successors, and or assigns shall coordinate with the city and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation to ensure that development of the use does not conflict with planned improvements to Route 20 or the vicinity of the site. The final design and configuration of the site's access driveway shall incorporate the latest design of the planned Mass DOT improvements to Route 20 and shall be approved by both Mass DOT and the Engineering Division of the Department of Public Works. The applicant shall conduct a traffic signal warrant analysis for the proposed main entrance opposite Village Drive to be submitted for review as part of the site plan review process. The applicant shall also consider the feasibility of making the secondary driveway emergency vehicles only as part of the traffic analysis submitted as part of site plan review. I know this one, there is a traffic warrant that has already been done. So I'm not sure about the need to have this language in there.
Let's. What I would suggest. Why don't we hold on that one for now and move through the rest of the comments. I think you may be correct, but I just want to clarify a point.
Okay. I mean, I guess I can see having it in there because the discussion is really letting site plan be the decider of this specific part. I just want the committee to be comfortable with that. So I'm sure that there will be discussion by committee members also. 6C is condition C9B. We suggest that the wording be revised to state, prior to applying for a building permit for the use, the applicant, its successors, and or assigns shall submit a request to the Metro West Regional Transit Authority to add a bus stop in the vicinity of the site and its neighboring residential properties. Are you okay with that one, Mr. Fox?
Yes, thank you.
And C9C, we suggest that we revise to state as follows. The applicant, its successors, and or assigns shall sponsor a program for the site's residents to encourage shared trips and carpooling to reduce vehicle trips to and from the site, and shall submit an annual report on this program to the building commissioner on or before January 30th during each year that the use remains in operation.
Yes, that's acceptable. Thank you.
That one? All right. So I'm assuming that the committee members and other members that are in attendance tonight are going to want to have some review over the traffic information that was presented to us. I believe that Tom Moran is here. on here. I don't know is he the one who did the traffic study? I believe he was the,
No, Tom Moran's from Waypoint. Our traffic engineers were not available tonight. We do have their memos and we can get report back from them, but they were not available to join tonight's meeting, unfortunately.
okay. Are you comfortable enough going over it to see if there are any questions from anybody, or would you rather that wait until the person who did the study is actually here?
I'm happy to hear questions and see if that would be an efficient way to bring it back to our consultant.
All right, so committee members, other members that are here on the call, as I indicated, we did have the memo from November 17th and the December memo, and I know I did send this on to Mr. DePercio for his review of it. So, because I know that they were specifically citing some comments that he had made. So I think we can start first with the November 17th memo, which was really related to Mr. DePercio's comment about the driveway access. And I know your comments indicated that if we wanted the westerly entrance to be emergency only, you wanted it gated. I think site plan had said they did not want it gated. So I think if the committee wants to have any discussion about that too, we can. So I don't know if we want to open it up to committee members first, or if we just want Mr. DePercio to be able to make some comments. Committee members, any questions specifically before we start?
Councilor Roby, it's Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, madam. I have to admit, when I was looking at the design, I was assuming that the west was an entrance, not an exit. Is it exclusively an exit, or is it an entrance?
It's exclusively an exit.
Okay, because I have no problems with being an entrance, and I think for emergency vehicles, it would also be good to be an entrance, but the exit makes less sense because of the same traffic concerns you have going out on the other side. Basically, you end up trying to cross Route 20 if you're trying to take a left, and if you're taking a right, you end up crossing over to the other side anyway. So I think that that's something, and if it's for emergency vehicles, if it's entrance only, then that would actually address that concern, I would assume, as well. Again, I think that this, this development, there's significant improvements in the development. I do have some other questions. Just as far as the traffic study goes, is this a good time to bring it up, or should I wait for other questions from other councilors?
Why don't you hold on specific traffic warrant questions, and we can just deal with the driveway location at this point, if that's okay?
That's fine.
All right. Any other specific questions on the driveway from councilors before we let Mr. DePercio? Do I see Councilor Landers raising his hand?
Right. I think we ought to go back to that western entrance or exit, whatever it is. I assume at one point that it was an exit, and I guess we'd have to be consistent there with some of the other projects we've approved throughout the city. If it was an exit only, there would only be right turns, meaning going east. I don't think you'd want that to be an exit that you could go west. That complicates things, traffic coming down Route 20 heading east. But getting back to, I think, what Councilor Doucette was mentioning there, the fire station isn't that far west of there. Oftentimes, that they might like to enter the complex there. But here again, that's one of the other problems I have. I'm not so sure if it does them any good to enter there, because they don't have 360 degrees around the buildings anyways, which I know the chief feels comfortable with his sprinkler system, but I don't feel comfortable with a project of this magnitude that a ladder truck or a truck cannot get down the back. I don't know if we have to discuss that more. So what is the purpose of this roadway out? You take Royal Crest now, they've been there 52 years, and they still have the main entrance in and out, but north of there, they have they have an exit that is gated. All these years, for 52 years, it's been gated. But I've seen the fire department, enter that way when they've stopped. They get a key to it, they open it up. So we got to decide, what do we want that driveway to do, and will it do what we want? At one time, I think it was in here that it was going to be a second exit out of there. Did we lose that, Madam Chair?
No, I believe, Councilor Landers, if you look at the site plan that was given to us on page C101, I think you can see it a lot more clearly. And I don't know, Mr. Kerrigan, if you have a copy, but you can see that it is the westerly exit is an exit only, but it is both east and west.
Well, that's suicide.
The site plan's discussion was that they wanted it to be used as an emergency access only.
Who are they? Who are they? The site people?
Site plan. And I think the discussion that I think we need to have as a committee is, are we comfortable letting site plan be the decider of how the layout of this? I think that's really site plan's job more than ours, to determine entrance exits, make sure that all of the buildings are okay with the fire department, with the police department, that all of the things
I guess if I was
the building code are met. That's their job.
Yeah, well, see, here again, there must be a reason why they don't want that to be emergency only. They probably don't want residents to go out that exit and go west on 20. That's suicide. Because if you think about it, coming down that hill, cars pick up momentum, by the old registry building, by the fire station, and they're going at a pretty good clip. I don't think the new storage area slows them down a heck of a lot. So, and that's just about where this would be. So there has to be a reason that they don't want that to be other than an emergency exit. So sometimes we have to listen to them, because just think who's on the site plan review committee is the police chief and the fire chief. So I don't know, somehow.
Madam Chair, if I may, we did receive some comments from members of the site plan committee asking whether it made sense to have that be a gated emergency entrance only. But we didn't have, there was not a universal opinion of the committee, to my recollection, and the chiefs did not express one way or another what they preferred. And I do think the suggested condition that the final layout of both entrances, exits, or however we configure them, be something that's taken up by the site plan committee.
Right. And I think if Mr. DePercio would like to jump into this conversation, maybe he can help us. I was actually at site plan, so I heard the comments and understand, but I think the rest of the committee and members in the public, Mr. DePercio, if you'd like to take over here.
Sure. Just to give a little bit of the background, this plan has gone through a few iterations, as you know, and one of the first layouts that we saw had actually two entrances that were two-way, so two places where you could go in and out of the project. And one of our initial comments to that layout was that one should be in and one should be out, and we decided that the western one maybe made more sense as the exit from the site. And that has that location and that driveway being exit only has kind of survived through the rest of these iterations. To me, my opinion is that this is a roadway where we want to limit the number of curb cuts and the number of places where cars are going in and out. I think we do need a driveway at that location. To me, it should be for emergency vehicles only, unless the engineers and the traffic engineers can show that that driveway, whether it's exit only or entrance only, is going to make the main entrance function better and it's going to work and be safe. To me, I still feel that that should be an emergency vehicle driveway only. And at site plan review, the comment to that from the police and fire chiefs was that emergency access, when it's gated, the gates are problematic to them. They prefer that there not be a gate. I think there would be agreement to the concept of it being emergency vehicles only. It was just the matter of it, whether it is going to be gated or not. Again, I think, as I spoke to Chairperson Roby about after that meeting, I think that's something, a detail that we can work out at site plan review, because I do think a driveway at that location makes sense. You know, to me, it's for emergency vehicles, but if there's a better reason for it, then we can work that out at site plan review.
And Mr. DePerso, is site plan comfortable with the language of the recommendation then to change the roadway improvements? And even though the traffic signal warrant analysis has already happened, keeping that in there is okay?
I think so. When I hadn't got the analysis at that time, that's why it was in there. But if everyone's comfortable with leaving it there, then that's fine with me too.
Okay, and maybe we can talk to legal to see if it needs to be reworded to state rather than shall conduct. That says that it has conducted, and you can get the information. But I think that is an easy enough discussion to have with them after the fact. All right, so committee members, are we all okay with letting site plan be the final determinant on the use of what that westerly?
Well, Madam Chair, Councilor Landis, that was your original question a couple of minutes ago, and I think we have to decide, are they going to make the decision, or is the committee going to make the decision, the subcommittee, or the full city council?
Well, I think that if the wording is, as I read it, it would be the applicant should also consider the feasibility, and site plan would be the one who would determine the final actual plans that are being built. And site plan would mark that as emergency and gated or ungated, depending on the decision that is made when site plan takes this up again.
You know, I guess I agree with that, only because of the makeup of the site plan review committee. You got the fire chief and the chief of police on there, and I guess we have to listen to them. That's why they're on that committee there, and it's just partially, I think part of their decision might be that they don't want to be part of the fact that you let that be a residential exit and then allow traffic to go west. I'd never. That would be a worse intersection than Phelps and Route 20. In Phelps and Route 20, I've tried to come out of there for 60 years, and I avoid that intersection like the plague. So I think we got to go with the site people, because the makeup, you got the city engineer, you got the chief of police, and you got the fire chief.
Correct. So consensus from the rest of the committee? Does anybody object to letting site plan be the deciding factor on that westerly driveway?
Councilor Roby, it's Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette.
Again, I think that, you know, that the issue of the exit at that location, it seems to be an all or nothing scenario. And I think having it be an entrance versus an exit creates a better flow. As what Engineer DePercio was saying is one entrance, one exit. You know, if the exit of this was across from Village Drive, it's even leans to a better argument to put a streetlight there because it's the only exit of the location. You know, also, the exit there is going to have issues considering it's only, you know, maybe 100 feet, 200 feet away from Victoria Lane and the Jolin Trailer Park. So, I mean, a lot of people are already complaining about entering an exit there, and I think having the exit on this side so close to the Jolin is really worsening the situation, pretty much as similar to what Councilor Landers is saying. I think that I would rather see the council vote to have that be an entrance for all traffic. Therefore, emergency access comes in for free. You know, we don't have to worry about being gated and
But
have it that
Councilor
way.
said there is another entrance that is across from the villages, if you look at the site plan.
Right, no, what I'm saying, but the point is, the exit here is so close to Jolin, instead of having it a further distance away. And I think that's that can make the situation worse. You have two exits that are very close to each other, trying to get onto Route 20. You know,
Right,
hundreds
so I
of feet
think
apart.
the idea would be that it would not be used by the public for anything.
Why
if
not
I'm
leave it?
understanding site plan.
Then my point is, why not leave it as an entrance for everyone instead of just an exit?
Because they can just go a little bit further down the road to enter into the plan.
Right, well, as what Engineer DePercio was saying, the whole idea is to have, you know, one entrance, one exit, have two means of access for this location. And I think that in spirit, that keeps that. If that entrance, if that site becomes an entrance versus an exit.
So I take it you are not okay with letting site plan make the decision on the westerly exit?
Yes, that is true. I am not comfortable with that.
Anybody else?
This is Councilor Wagner. I agree with what Councilor Landers is saying. I think it's really dangerous. The idea of that being a left in the westerly exit and trying to take a left, trying to head west on Route 20 is not a good idea. And what Councilor Doucette's saying, I think has some merit. I get that, okay, you could go down a little bit further, but this is still 3 buildings. I mean, we've just to scale down the size, but the way it stands right now, so if that gets shut down to be just one, if it's emergency use only, and if there isn't some kind of barrier, people are going to use it, and they're going to use it for whatever direction they feel like using it. So, I mean, I think that needs to have some clarity there, because you've got 3 big buildings now with only one lane to get into the facility. So that the way I understand this from the plans is that, so there's 3 lanes, one heads east, one heads west, both exits, and then only one, which is to the west of those 2, that is heading in. Which again, when we talk about the light, because that's still nuts, because you've got people turning into the facility and people taking a left out of the facility and trying to take a left. It's going to be happening at the same time. So part of me, I get that both the fire chief and the police chief have a lot more experience with this, but I just want to raise my concerns. I think having one means of entrance is very limiting and concerning, and just simply marking that emergency vehicles only for the other lane, it's with one, I just don't see how that's going to actually be adhered to, and that's going to create serious problems on the roadway.
All right, Mr. DePercy, I'm going to bring this back to you. I believe that you had stated that you were comfortable with having the westerly be an egress only. With site plan kind of okay?
Again, that came to be because making that an entrance is problematic. If you're going to take a left into that location, you're going to conflict with vehicles taking a left into properties across the street, because you recall the Mass DOT's design for this road is to have a 2-way center left turn lane.
Right.
And that westerly location is not ideal for an entrance because you're going to conflict in that center lane, vehicles turning left into there with vehicles trying to take a left into the properties across the street, which I think the driveway to the gas station is close to there. So there was going to be some conflicts in using that as an entrance. That was the reason it became the exit. And again, that was a remnant of when, that began when it was going to be one in and one out, two separate locations. My preference again would be to have one main vehicle entrance and exit to the facility in one location, and to have the other one be for emergency vehicles.
Do we have anybody else with comments?
Madam Chair, Councilor Oram.
Councilor Oram.
Thank you. I guess our engineer just said it all very eloquently by noting the conflicts that we're going to find with this entry-exit on the westerly side. And I'm in 100% agreement with him that emergency entrance, that appears okay to me. But at the same time, I believe, as you noted, there is another entrance. The concern here is obviously getting out onto Route 20 and especially going west from this project. And I believe and still believe totally that it warrants a traffic light. And on that note, I would like to ask one question if I can, because we're on the subject. In the November 17th response from the traffic engineer, it mentions that they reviewed this information and they mentioned the Mass DOT. What I'd like to know, do we have anything in writing from Mass DOT agreeing with this analysis? And that's in the first paragraph of the page that starts to address our engineer's concern about left turns. Their response mentions Mass DOT, but do we have something in writing from Mass DOT related to that approval? That's noted in that first paragraph from the traffic engineer. I'd like to see if that could be answered.
Sure. Madam Chair, if I may, I have not participated in those meetings. I know our consultants from Vanessa Associates have. They've had discussions with MassDOT. I do not know if we have that in writing from MassDOT. I know there are conversations with MassDOT where this current layout has been favored over other layouts that we've given, but I don't know that we have that in writing, but we can look into that and get it for you if we have it.
Madam Chair, to you, to the attorney, thank you. I'll look forward to seeing that in writing. I think it's very important if they're going to be quoted in their response that we see their written details on why they're in agreement with this. Thank you.
And I will, Councilor Oram, remind you that I had read the new wording suggested from site plan does specifically state that Mass DOT and the city engineer have to approve this. So it will be in the special permit language, and Mass DOT will have their plans. I think the hope is that there may be some redesign of what they're doing specifically at the entrance to this that would take care of some of the issues.
And thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to give reference to what some of the other councilors said too. And I travel this route when I go to the transfer station, and it's on a weekend. And try to get out of Concord Street even if you want to take a left. It's so obvious. I have traffic analysis from the police chief on all the accidents that have occurred in this section of Route 20. It's just another accident or several waiting to happen unless a traffic light goes in, and that is my comment.
Thank you, and I believe that it is several people's concern. I do understand the warrant, which we can talk about in a few minutes, indicates that a traffic light would not be approved by the state. It is a state road, so they would need to be doing that. I guess I want to get back to Mr. DiPersio. If site plan wanted this to be emergency only, how do you design it so that, for instance, I know when I go into Target on Route 20 East, that roadway is configured so that you are not supposed to be entering it except at the lights, not the entrance that is available for people that are heading east on 20. But I see people heading west turning in that entrance, not all the time, but often enough when I'm there. So if they're doing it at that, where it's very specifically built to make it hard to make that left-hand turn, how do we stop people from entering or exiting a roadway that exists if it's not gated?
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to stop the people that are just going to do it anyway. I mean, you see it. We all see that occurring all the time. So that obviously that's something we'd have to try to figure out if there's some sort of. I'm thinking if there's some sort of gate that would be less problematic for the fire and police. Something that we haven't used before. We haven't given it a lot of discussion, to be honest, but that's the obvious question. If it's not gated, how do you keep other people from using it? So that would be what we'd have to try to figure out.
All right, because I guess I am perfectly comfortable with not letting residents use that for going in or out. I kind of agree that we have a designated entrance where all the signage could be, but how do you stop people from going into a road that doesn't have a gate on it? So that I would make that point. And I don't know how committee members, other than having something in the special permit language specific to this, to me, site plan and the actual design would be where this comes into play. So I don't know if anybody else has any comments on this. I'm not sure we've got consensus on letting site plan be the ones that make this decision, or if people are adamant that they want this to be one thing or the other.
Madam Chair, it's Councilor Navin.
Councilor Navin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with a lot of the concerns that are being stated here, and I've said this before, and a lot of folks have said it. A left turn out of this parking lot is going to be hard, no matter which entrance it's in. So I think I definitely have some concerns on the westerly access point, and there is, if you don't gate it though, there is no way you're going to let, there's no way you're going to stop people from using it. That said, despite the fact that I like to think that I am, especially when I'm behind the wheel, a traffic expert of every matter of speaking, I do think that, the folks that do make up site plan, are better educated and have seen more of this, but I do hope that, they have certainly at least take our concerns, and if there is validity to certain parts of this, that it is made during site plan, but I am comfortable with this decision being made by site plan review. Thanks.
All right, and the language that I read does say the applicant shall consider the feasibility, and I think that discussion would take place at site plan to make them be the final decider of whether it is or not.
Madam Chair, for what it's worth, we have done conditions just like this on other projects, and I assure you site plan review deals with them head on, and we have a robust discussion, and these get addressed. This isn't something that just gets pushed along and never paid attention to again, quite the opposite.
And I know that with with Mr. DePercio and Ms. Ryder being on here tonight, hearing the comments of the City Council, that will certainly help as they make their decision. So is the committee comfortable with keeping the recommended wording from site plan for C8? I know the applicant was. Is that okay with everybody?
Madam Chair, it's Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much. I do have to say, listening to Engineer DePercio, I appreciate and respect his opinion as far as providing, controlled access, some means of controlled access for the west side. you know, I think that the issue, I mean, I see the left turn into Target all the time, considering where I am. So mostly it's because people are attracted to the sign versus the light that was beforehand. I think that there's less of a chance of someone taking a left turn into this development because it would have been easier to take a left in the other entrance at the beginning. At least that would be my assumption at this point, but that could be proven wrong. But I think leaving it, the west access left to the other board would be fine. I also have to explicitly agree with what Councilor Oram was saying as far as the traffic light goes. I think it's critical for the traffic flow for this location. I did do some measurements based on Google, and you know, between basically Hager Street and this location, there are 3 streetlights to the east of this. Between Hager Street and the Raytheon, it's 0.4 miles. Between Raytheon and DeCenzo is 0.5 miles, and between DeCenzo and Farm Road is 0.3 miles. Between Farm Road and this location is about 0.4 of a mile. So I've heard comments saying, oh, it's too close to Farm Road. I don't buy that, because there's already an assortment of other lighting that's being already put in place before that. So I think that, you know, I'd rather have, you know, the west side be part of site plan, but I think that I'd rather put more teeth into the traffic light as far as making sure that the traffic light is put there. And I'm not sure how to say that or word that.
Yeah, and I think all of us would love to have a traffic light there. Unfortunately, we don't control that street. I know I did talk to Mr. DePercio to have him remind me how the light on 85 at the high school was put in. My recollection was Route 85 is a state road. He reminded me it is not. So when Poirier Drive was redone, that light was put in. We can't just put in a light on Route 20. And when the state redoes the road, if it's not part of their plan, done with a warrant that shows that one is needed, then it's not going to happen. And I guess we can go to the discussion, if you would like, now for the specific memo that came from the trip generation update. And I guess a question that I had was, and I think it was on this, there was a comment that the traffic coming from across the street did not count in this. And I was curious why, considering it would be a 4-way light, they didn't include the count that would come out of the villages. Can somebody explain that? And I don't.
I can if unless you're looking for the applicant to explain.
Whoever can help me. So, if you know the answer, Mr. DePercio, it's appreciated.
So the traffic signal warrants are specific conditions that the traffic engineers have to look at, and there's 9 of them, and unless you trigger one of those warrants, then the state isn't going to put in the traffic signal. And to your question, the way many of the warrants deal with the volume of traffic, both on the main road and on the approaching side roads. And when you analyze the volumes for one of the signal warrants, what you look at is only the side approach that has the greater volume, which would be this proposed new development would have a greater volume based on their traffic estimation than Village Drive for the different hours that they look at. And that's the way the warrant works, is that you're looking at the the greater of the two approaching side street warrants. So that's what that note refers to.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
And just to clarify too, you mentioned the Poirier Drive signal. Even though that wasn't a state road, you would still apply the signal warrants, and that one, because of the unique nature of the use there with the two schools, it triggered one of the volume warrants for the side approach, and that's why the signal was warranted at that location.
Okay, thank you for adding that. So does anybody have specific questions, even though we don't have the person who actually did the traffic study with us? I'm sure we could write them down for clarification at a further meeting, but if anybody has questions, comments on that memo. So,
Madam Chair, I do. I'm having a hard time with this because part of our assessment here goes to quality of life. So we've already heard loud and clear and have heard from, close to 200 constituents and a lot from the villages that it's already very difficult to get out of there. And I really appreciate the direction this moved in. There's so many parts that I do like about this, but it's already so difficult. And I have my constituents who live in the villages calling me, telling me about how, and I've sat there and actually tried at different times of the day now during the pandemic to get in and out. And the idea of putting that many people right across the street, is this like a definitive thing? Like there's no chance we're going to get a light? Because that to me changes the whole conversation. We're about to make people's lives much more difficult and change the whole quality of this area if there's no chance of putting a light in. And I go back to saying you've got these three big buildings and these, several hundred people coming in, and there's going to be one exit out of this facility. If the other one becomes an emergency exit, you've got one lane coming in and two lanes coming out. And again, you've got the people across the street, you've got the east and west traffic, you've got bike lanes, you've got people turning either direction in the middle of the road, and now you've got whatever that poor Slav is trying to take the left into the facility. With all that going on, there could also be someone who's been sitting there for 20 minutes and getting aggravated and is trying to take that left out of the facility. Oh my God, I can't imagine that we would think about creating this whole situation. Like that is, I don't understand how we can make the special permit decision when we have to think about quality of life for the people that are already there, and we're going to throw this mess at them and say, oh, well, the only saving grace would be putting in a light, which is going to back up and slow down 20, but at least make entrance and exit easier and have some kind of chance for people to get in and out. I don't know. I know, I don't see how that's going to work. So, if it's definitively no chance of a light, it totally shifts how I'm thinking about this whole project, honestly.
I see Councilor Falk, you want to respond?
Madam Chair, Council Landis also has a few comments.
All right, why don't you let Mr. Falk respond first, and then we'll go to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So
maybe he could respond to both of us. Come on.
Oh, sorry. So what I'd say is, number one, the Route 20 improvements being done by MassDOT with the center turn lane will eliminate a lot of the conflicts that you see today and the conflicts you might be thinking about that could come from this project, because of that center turn lane will be eliminating a lot of those potential conflicts. But what I'd also say is what we've done before, where we have a situation where councilors are concerned about, we have to trust a traffic study now and then see what happens. What we've often done are conditions that require the applicant to revisit after a certain period of time, say 1 year after final build out, require another warrant analysis or a subsequent traffic analysis to see what are the actual conditions, and do those new conditions or as-built conditions require a signal, as suggesting, or something along those lines. So we could have a condition that could be in number 8, or it could be another condition, and I can work on the language that would require us to do a subsequent analysis after we're open and operating, to see if there is a warrant for a signal at that time or other improvements that we would have to complete at that time as a matter of zoning.
All right, thank you. That may be something that we want to think about adding in. Councilor Landers, you had comments or questions?
Well, a couple of comments. I guess I would have a hard time supporting that, move forward, and then give it a couple years and make sure there's no fatality there, and then you put the lights in. We always hear that expression, the state won't move until there's a couple of fatalities. Well, I don't think there's any truth to that. But I visited 2 sites on Route 20 today. Sudbury, down by, there's a, believe it or not, I thought it was a home for the elderly, but it's mixed use down there by Duckett's Funeral Home. Come to find out, that's just for pedestrians. But I did go out to the one that I watched very closely. It's the Village at Smith Pond. I didn't even know that. It's right out on Route 20, not too far from Route 9 and 20 exit, and it's the entrance, the back entrance to that gigantic shopping center there. And I was just curious. So I sat there for a while. I thought they'd call the cops on me, but I think they think my car is a cop's car sometimes. But anyways, I counted the number of units there. It's only 20. It's only 20 people living at the Village at Smith Pond. And it's nice, you know, double garages and so forth. And they have a light coming out of there on the 20. And then, of course, the other part of that 4-way intersection is the light coming out of the shopping center. Now, I try to get into the Northborough Town Hall today, but they're closed like we are. But also, none of them answer the phone. I try to talk to the engineer. I try to talk to the selectman's office, and the other one was the building. So I don't know if they have Tuesday afternoons off or what, but I couldn't even get anybody to talk to. What I was trying to find out, that Northborough intersection, what came first, the Village at Smith Pond or the shopping center? I have an idea. Maybe the shopping center, I'm not sure. But you know, this is serious. Everybody, I even had 3 or 4 calls last night from our village there, you know. What really concerns me, you know, being quite familiar and remembering a couple of fatalities on Route 20. One was just about this time of the year, day before Christmas. Woman was out getting her, not too far from McGee's. I was working there. Day before Christmas, woman out getting her mail. The traffic moves 35 to 45 miles an hour there. And you talk about putting a divided in the middle. You know, for a while you go east, for a while you go west. I don't feel very comfortable. I can't be convinced that the markings on the road is going to take care of or eliminate the problems we have with left turns and right turns. And you talked about curb cuts. We have far too many there now, you know, and every curb cut is an entrance or an exit. And I don't know, this is not an ideal site. It should be, it's 25 acres, but this is not an ideal site. What we're trying to do in this whole project, I'm going to mention a couple other times tonight too, we're trying to make it work. And I'm not so sure if we can make it work. That's all I have to say right now. I have a few comments later, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you very much for those comments. I will just remind everybody that we don't have any say, or we actually have very little say on what the state is doing on Route 20. We've had design meetings where there were public comments made, but I think in the end, if they decide to do what they have discussed doing, they're going to do it. We would just like to be able to, if this is approved, work with them on this specific area.
Madam Chair.
All right. I'm sorry, who was that?
Councilor Navin, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I have similar concerns regarding this traffic light and I certainly appreciate the applicant's willingness to put some language into a potential special permit that, and I trust their good faith to go back and look for a warrant, but putting the green light, pun intended, here to let this go forward without having assurances from DOT, which, by no fault of theirs, they obviously wouldn't commit to that in hopes that we could get a warrant. We've been dealing with this on Stevens Street for a while, trying to get a truck exclusion, and we've gone back and we've done the warrant, and we've done the warrant, and we've done the warrant, and it does not lead to that, and that does not make that part of Stevens Street any safer. It doesn't make the trucks slow down anymore, and we still have that problem, and our only outlet at that point is to go out and count the heavy trucks again, and it does not alleviate the frustration or some of the safety concerns. So I echo the sentiments that I would also be concerned letting this go forward without understanding and having a commitment from MassDOT, which I recognize is challenging for them to do. They have their own sets of rules and regulations that they follow, and I'm sure would cost added design to this project that's coming down. So I think that's it for now. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And I see Councilor Perlman, you have your hand up. You have not spoken. You have questions, comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair Roby. I just wanted to echo some similar concerns regarding the traffic and the left-hand turns. For a while, I've been able to be at the Jolin Villages and try exiting and entering, as well as at the villages, and it's very challenging. It's extremely scary to take a left going either direction against traffic. Even if it's not at a peak time, the way the road curves, the visibility is not very great, and the speed at which people are going is often above, it seems, maybe what the speed limit is, or maybe it just seems really fast. I know that they're going to be doing the updates with the sidewalks, but currently right now, even the people that are walking there, I'm very concerned. And if there's going to be now a trail access and people are going to be walking to a trail, that's another thing to consider, which I feel like adds another layer of safety. And as Councilor Landers mentioned, with the fatalities that have happened, even recently in the Route 20 vicinity, it is extremely alarming that this could happen again. And I wouldn't want our approach to be reactive. I think that we need to be very proactive in the safety concerns and be preventing any sort of accident from ever occurring, especially the loss of life in this vicinity. And also I want to echo the sentiments about a traffic light. I feel like that would be the only way to really secure the safety of the area. I am not really familiar with another area in Marlborough having a lot of left-hand, right-hand, center lane areas, so I imagine people would ignore the actual signage itself because they're so used to just driving a very specific way. So if there was going to be something on the road, it would need to be echoed as well, in signage, letting people know that there was going to be some sort of turn opportunity, because otherwise I do not think that the markings on the road would be enough. So I just wanted to echo some of the sentiments about the traffic concerns. And I just think that given the volume of housing that's going in and the number of people that it would allow to live in this area, I mean, people are going to be turning in and out. There's going to be a lot of people coming in. And again, as Councilor Wagner mentioned, there only being one way of going in, but there's going to be a backup. And what happens? There's going to be a huge line of people being backed up on Route 20, and we have commuters who are going through, and then we have people who also who are trying to just go where they live and are in the city. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Councilor
I'm
Rossing.
sorry. Who is speaking? I can't.
Councilor Rossing.
Councilor Ossing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if my memory serves me correct, but I believe the traffic engineer, when he presented his conditions, and Attorney Falk can correct me, back when it was a 4-unit building, said that by right, if this doesn't work, and so the project that can go in by right, the city council has no say over, and the traffic from that particular facility would be greater than was then a 188-unit facility. Attorney Falk can correct me. But I just want the councilors to reflect on it. I mean, this is the project we have, and we have an opportunity to shape it. But if we don't shape this one, which is okay, and something goes in by right, the whole traffic light entrance exit becomes mute, because then we don't have any say on it. I mean, site plan will get their swing at it, but the council won't have a swing at it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Councilor Ossing. All right, I think that this meeting is going a little bit differently in direction or sense that I'm getting from committee members. I don't know if we want to take the time to go through the special permit tonight, or if we want to table that for discussion at a meeting, assuming I'm the chair of Urban Affairs, or whoever is, when we have our reorg meeting. Committee members, what's your sense? Where are we? Councilor Wagner?
Yes, I'd like to add, I mean, I just want to remind people, and I appreciate the comments of all my fellow councilors, but I am recalling it was only about a year ago that there was a couple that was waited so long to take a left. If we remember, there was a fatality on Route 20, because this comes up so often, and there was a UPS driver, if I'm not mistaken, behind them, and he actually got out to try to help them take a left and ended up getting killed. So where I am personally, I get this, I you know, again, I was moving towards, I really like the direction of this project, but part of the negotiation and talking to constituents, the only way I can see this work, I could see this work with that westerly end is emergency use only, and there's only that one exit and entrance, but there's a light there. And if there's no light there, you know, I hear that something else is going to go in, but I just want to go on the record. I'm struggling with, I don't want to end up voting for something that ends up with somebody dying, because we thought, well, maybe nothing better will come down. It's a very concerning setup. It's going to have a really big impact on the people who already live there. I think it's going to be a frustrating bottleneck for the people who move into this facility. And I'm really trying hard to support. I actually want to support this project. I think, again, it's moving in the right direction. There's a lot of pluses with it, but this, to me, where I need more information. I mean, from this, I just want to say, you know, make it clear, I couldn't support it the way it is now. I think it's going to be a fatality waiting to happen, and I couldn't live with myself knowing I voted for it, and then somebody died because of the situation we all saw coming. So, wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Certainly, Mr. Falk.
So we submitted the updated traffic analysis from our engineering consultants. I certainly wish they were able to attend tonight. They were not. If the committee thinks it would be worthwhile to have them come back, we can certainly bring them back at another meeting to have greater discussion. From their last presentation, I didn't get the sense that the committee was looking to speak with them further, and we've since reduced the size of the project. So the concerns that were raised, to my mind, have gone down. I just want to, speaking to President Ossing's comments, that is what our analysis showed, which is an as-of-right retail use would have roughly triple the car trips at the peak hour, roughly triple than this use currently has. And as you may know, retail trips are far less predictable. They come and go throughout the day. Residential uses tend to be a lot more predictable, a lot less in and out throughout the day. It's not a shopping center. It is a residential community. But what I would say is, if the committee is willing, if we could continue review of the draft decision and then come back next time with our traffic engineers, if folks want to discuss this topic further. And in the meantime, I can come up with some of the language I was referencing about revisiting the traffic conditions and the possibility of a light once we've opened. As it is now, you're correct, MassDOT wouldn't approve a light here. I don't know, and we can review. I'm not sure that MassDOT would approve a light necessarily for certain retail uses here that would have far greater volume. They may, they may not, and we can bring that back to the committee. But we're happy to further review, going beyond condition number 8 on roadway improvements and some of the other conditions in the draft decision if the committee is so inclined.
Anybody else on the committee? Where are we?
Chairwoman Roby, it's Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much. I really want to support this as well, but I think that the traffic signal is an important aspect of, improving the area. I mean, I think that the work they're doing, as far as, addressing, the floodplain and water overflow, dispersion, I think is great. They're really addressing that well. It's a green community, and I'd be proud to have that within my ward. But I think that the biggest issue that I see is, that, part of this warrant analysis cannot take into account the villages, and to be honest, I am shocked, because there is an existing facility that already has traffic issues that are being ignored as part of the analysis. And I really consider, what's wrong with this picture? And I think that even if Mr. Fox's wording was going to say, oh, we'll do another analysis in a year, same situation will occur. You cannot take into account, how do we do a traffic signal analysis that takes into account the traffic from the villages? Because if we can't do that, there's no way this is going to be, that this would ever be passed. And it's just, going after a, Don Quixote going after a windmill type of thing, I think it's important that a traffic, goes in here. I think if retail has its own issues, considering that there's a whole bunch of retail that's closing within our city as well as other cities. And it was having issues long before the pandemic. But I think that, I hope that someone at the state level gets a chance to listen to this conversation, because it is on record, that how many counselors are actually coming and want to see a traffic light here in our city to address traffic concerns. So, thank you.
All right, and I would totally agree. I know I have been a city councilor, and even well before, I was talking to somebody from the villages, reminding them about former state representative Steve Ledoux and his quest to have a traffic light on Concord Road. That's probably 25 years that he brought that up, and where we are with that traffic light. So I think your Don Quixote point is probably well taken for a traffic light at this intersection, unfortunately. Anybody else? Comments? Do we want to continue discussion tonight?
I think the questions I have is Chairwoman Roby, it's Councilor Doucette again. I did have questions about the traffic study. I think it would, that's a good excuse to actually postpone this until we can have them show up and review those in person.
All right. Not hearing anything.
Madam Chair, clarification question. When you say, so is it somebody from the state who would come? Because I'd like to, is there a conversation to be had with the Department of Transportation, somebody at the state level? Nothing? Like, who is the conversation going to be with that we're talking about?
I think the conversation would be with the person who did the traffic study. I don't think there is any reason we would have anybody from the state come to this meeting. They're only going to tell us that we don't meet the warrant, and we know that already. So I don't know why we would have, and I'm sorry if I alluded to the fact that somebody from the state would be coming. It would just be the person who did the traffic study to help us understand the numbers.
Madam Chair, that's correct. It would be Vanessa and Associates, our traffic consultant, who have also been working with MassDOT in designing this project and analyzing the traffic, and has had conversations with them with respect to our entrances and traffic signals.
All right, so does that seem like a plan? We have the wording that I think we can have the applicant add into the special permit with a revised draft special permit for further discussion at our next meeting. I'm guessing that you're going to revise the information specific to the plans.
Yes.
All of those need to be updated also. And then we can have questions that would be given to the traffic people at the next meeting. Does that work for everybody? We can just keep this tabled in committee. Once we know the status of urban affairs, the makeup of the committee, if I'm still chair, and we have some dates set for our city council meetings, we can send out an email. Whoever's chair would send out an email to set up a meeting in January to continue discussion.
Motion to postpone the order?
All right, it's been moved and seconded. We will just keep this in committee. We need a vote to postpone it in committee. It's here. It's not going anywhere until we actually take a vote to recommend one way or the other. So if I'm not hearing anything from anybody else, I would take a motion to adjourn.
Should we do a roll call vote? Point of order?
Councilor Doucette, was that you?
Yes. Shouldn't we do a roll call vote for?
Yes. For the adjournment, yes, but I need a motion first.
Right, no, roll call vote to postpone.
I can take one, but there is no reason to vote. It's in committee, it's staying in committee. Just like every other committee meeting we've had where we've just continued discussion. We don't postpone. It's just still there.
Okay. Motion to adjourn.
And it's been moved and seconded, so I will take a roll call vote to adjourn. Councilor Wagner.
Councilor Wagner votes yes.
Councilor Navin.
Counselor Naven votes yes.
Councilor Landers.
Council Landers votes yes.
Councilor Doucette.
Councilor Doucette votes yes.
All right, and I just want to confirm, Councilor Tenera, do I see you? Your microphone is not on. You are at the meeting? Have you been here throughout the whole meeting?
Yes, I have.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry I did not recognize you, but I just wanted to confirm that you were here.
No,
all right.
Thank you.
I am voting to adjourn the meeting. We are adjourned at 8:16, and we will set up something January of 2021. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good
Happy
night,
holidays,
everyone.